Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about some NBA teams that I personally would love to be a fan of. And I did this the other way around as well, talking about some NBA teams that I would hate to be a fan of, and I'll leave the link to that down in the description below if you want to check that out and you haven't seen it yet. Now, this should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway before the video starts. These are very subjective things, right? Like, this is 100% my opinion, and it's just up to what teams I would like to be a fan of personally. So if you disagree with them, that's fine. Be sure to leave your own teams that you would love to be a fan of down in the comment section below. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started. First up for me is going to be the Golden State Warriors. And I did a video about them recently talking about how they're going to be good next year. They're going to have this top draft pick. They could potentially trade it for another all-star at some point, or they could just draft and develop a really good player in what's probably going to end up being a top 5 pick for them, depending on how the lottery shakes out. And I just really like the potential of what this team could look like next year. Personally, if I was a fan of theirs, I would hope that they would hold on to the rookie and develop him so that they can be good beyond this whole Steph, Clay, Draymond era. But the other part of this is Steve Kerr and their playing style prior to KD getting to Golden State. Because I think we can all agree that before KD got there, the Warriors were a pretty beloved team, not just because of Steph and Clay, but because of how they played, because of how they moved the ball. Their shooting ability was obviously incredible, but they played up an up-and-down pace. They were good defensively, and they just played such a nice brand of basketball. And now I feel like they're going to get back to that once they get all of their pieces back next year and everybody's healthy. And I think Steve Kerr's a really good coach. So that combination with him as well as their future for next year, I would love to be a Warriors fan. Moving on now to a team that might be a little bit surprising because people actually suggested this team to be in the teams that I would hate to be a fan of video, but it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One, I love the idea of having a team with so much potential moving forward with all these draft picks. And I understand that they could screw up every pick and they could screw up every trade from here on out and not actually get anything out of it. But I just love this idea of a team that has assets still to trade away now. They're actually pretty decent now to watch. They're not going to, be a real force in the playoffs or anything, but they could potentially make the postseason if they wanted to this year. But it's more about the future potential of this team with SGA, with pieces to still trade away, like Steven Adams and Gallinari and CP3. And then you have all these draft picks moving forward. And I also really like Sam Presti as a general manager, even though I know a lot of people have kind of mixed opinions about him, and he's certainly made mistakes in his tenure in Oklahoma City. Every general manager has, but I just think that he's done a lot with not a whole lot to work with at times. Obviously, they had KD and Russ and Harden and everything, but I mean, they had to bring those guys in initially, and I think from there, he's made some pretty decent moves, like the Paul George trade initially when they got him from Indiana. That was a pretty big deal for them to pull off. Obviously, they traded away Oladipo, who's become really good, but he wasn't going to be that good in Oklahoma City for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to stop defending Sam Presti here, but my point is, I love the potential of this team moving forward. That's one of the things that I look for in a team, and I think they have a capable front office as well. So I would honestly love to be a fan of them as well. Next up now is probably a relatively obvious one, and it's similar to the Thunder in terms of the potential moving forward, and that's the New Orleans Pelicans. And it's obviously just the fact that they have all these picks, they have all these Lakers picks moving forward. They've got guys like Brandon Ingram, assuming they re-sign him in the offseason. They've got Jackson Hayes, and of course, they've got Zion Williamson. Now, right now, they're not going to be very good, and it's a little bit strange, honestly, to me, how poorly they've been playing. Even without Zion, they have plenty of talent on this roster, but they have had plenty of injury issues and things like that. So I'm a little bit concerned about Alvin Gentry as coach, as well as the possibility that this Zion thing could just continue to drag on and he doesn't play this year, and he has all this potential of someone that could be really good, but it just never happens because of injury. That's definitely something I would be concerned about at this point if I was just choosing to put myself in the position to be a Pelicans fan. But still, in this moment, with all this potential they have moving forward, all these future pieces, I would love to be a Pelicans fan. I think it's a great time to be a fan of them right now. Assuming Zion ends up working out, I think Brandon Ingram has looked outstanding this year as well. Again, assuming they re-sign him, I think they're going to be able to put together something pretty special here moving forward, and I would love to be a part of that. Moving on now to the fourth team on this list, and it's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. And again, this is another kind of surprise one as we go through this. You might be thinking, why I'm picking these teams. Well, for one, I love Ja Morant. A lot of people do. I loved him coming into the draft. I love him even more now, having seen him in a professional environment in Memphis. And I would just love to be a fan of that guy for the next 10 to 12 years while he's, getting into his prime and just throughout his career. But the other part of this is I love what Memphis has been doing in the front office over the last couple of seasons, whether it be the Gasol trade or the Conley trade, getting Brandon Clark where they did in the draft. And it's an absolute crime that that guy lasted as long as he did in the draft. But they've just been making smart moves. They didn't get a ton out of either Conley or Gasol when they traded them, but they got a good amount of value considering the contracts and the age of both of those players. They've cleared the way for John Morant to develop as much as possible. They're developing other players on this roster to be good moving forward as well. So that gives me so much confidence. And you can probably tell through the first couple of teams on this list that that's something I really look for, is a front office that I can be confident in making the correct decisions 80% of the time moving forward, as well as an exciting young player like Ja, or like Zion, or like any of the other teams that I've talked about to this point. That's a big deal for me, and that's honestly slightly a bigger deal to me than how good Ja is in terms of being a fan of this Grizzlies team, is just the front office and how well I think they're doing and how I think they're going to continue to do moving forward. All right, next up now is a team that's actually really good right now, and it's the LA Clippers. And it's a couple of different reasons here. One, I think they're still the best team in the league when fully healthy. When we get to the postseason, I think that they're still the championship favorites. I understand that the Lakers are playing out of their minds. The Bucks are playing extremely well, even without Chris Middleton. But just from a roster construction standpoint, if it all comes together, which I think it will, this Clippers team is going to be extremely difficult to beat in the postseason. So that is, to this point, the most in the moment I want to be a fan of this team type deal on this list. But also, I think this team is going to continue to be good in the post-Paul George, Kawhi era. I think they're well set up in the front office and in the coaching staff to continue to be good even when those guys leave, and be one of the hallmark franchises of the NBA in terms of an on-court perspective moving forward. I think they've got it figured out. I think I think the ownership is so much better now, and they're going to be a team that is just going to do things right moving forward for the next couple of decades, and I would love to be a part of that as a fan of them as well. So it's not just about the PG Kawhi thing now, but also about the confidence I have in them to continue to be good moving forward, which is what you want as a fan. And next up now is going to be, maybe a predictable one. I don't know. It's going to be the Dallas Mavericks. And on my notes, it says, because Luka. And it's really that simple. And I know that he just got hurt as of the recording of this video, which is really unfortunate. And hopefully he can come back soon and come back healthy. But just to know that you have a guy that is as sure of a superstar moving forward as you can possibly have when healthy is just gives you so much confidence in this team and in this franchise moving forward. This is a franchise that, under Mark Cuban's ownership at least, has been one of the more consistent ones in the league over the last 20 or so years. And then now to have this guy for the foreseeable future, assuming he wants to stay in Dallas, has to just be such a confidence booster as a fan. And also to have a guy like that people are going to want to play with. Like, it's not just the fact that he's scoring a ton of points, but it seems like guys genuinely want to play with them. All of his teammates have incredible things to say about him. And then you've also got, other pieces on this roster, like Jalen Brunson could end up being a good thing. You've got Seth Curry under contract for the next couple of years. Kristaps Porzingis, if he ever figures out how to be more than just an outside shooter on this Dallas team. They have a foundation here. They have moves to make moving forward in terms of salary to bring in another guy, because I think eventually they will need one. And even the Porzingis thing, even though it doesn't look great right now, and you're looking at it like, man, we're going to be paying this guy this amount of money, and we traded these pieces for him. I think it's just an adjustment period. Just consider all the rust of having been out of basketball for so long, being in such a different role now than he was on those Knicks teams that were never very good, by the way, when he was kind of the guy for them. So it's going to take some time. He's still young, but to have those two pieces moving forward, and two incredibly marketable pieces as well from an international standpoint, has to be such a confidence booster as a fan. And I think this would probably be my number one team. If I was ranking these in terms of teams that, if I had a choice to just make myself a fan of them, it would be Dallas. And typically in every sport that I follow, NFL, college football, whatever, I have a team that I pick outside of my conference or on the other side of the league. For the NBA, NFL example, I always have one on the other side that I'm a huge fan of, and I kind of adopt in that conference. And for me, the Mavs are that. I have my Nets in Eastern Conference, and they're still my number one team. But if I had a choice of another team that I could pick, it would be Dallas, because Luka, as I said in my notes. And there you go. That is the end of today's video. I know it can be kind of weird because you're coming into this, maybe you read the title and you didn't see the other video and you're thinking, all right, this is going to be about, teams right now that this guy wishes he could be a fan of. And really, there's only two teams on this list that it makes sense for me to want to be a fan of them right now from an on-court perspective. But I think a little bit more in the long game in terms of not just a team that I would want to have be good right now, but moving forward and moving into the future in terms of the front office, in terms of the young players they have, in terms of the opportunity for them to be good next year and the year after, which is the case for the Warriors. So maybe it's a little bit different than you thought it would be coming into the video, but I try and be a little bit more unique in my takes as opposed to just, hey, these teams are really good, I'd like to be a fan of them. But like I said, that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.